Alright, so we are revisiting order of operations, but this time we are revisiting order of operations with rational numbers. And so what that means is that in an order of operations problem, we're going to have things like whole numbers. We are going to have fractions in the same problem as whole numbers. And we're going to have decimals in the same problems as fractions and whole numbers. Okay, and what's going to happen is you're going to have to switch between all three in order to solve the problem. What you know how to do, it's just going to take a little bit longer. Okay? All right, so as a quick review, let's review the steps of order of operations. So remember, we have PEMDAS, and this part of it is review. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to perform the operations that are inside of the parentheses. Okay, that's our P. The second thing that we're going to do is we're going to evaluate the exponents. Okay. Step 3 is a compound step, so we're going to multiply or we're going to divide, but we're going to do it in order from left to right. So if dividing comes first, we're going to divide first. If multiplying comes first, we're going to multiply first. Okay? Step 4 is also a compound step. We're going to add, and we're also going to subtract, but we're going to do it in order from left to right. So if subtracting comes first, we're going to subtract first. If adding comes first, we're going to add first. Okay? Then we have our little triangle to remind us of the steps as well, because some of us are more visual than others. So it all starts with the parentheses. Remember, once you're inside the parentheses, if the parentheses have multiplying, dividing, adding, and subtracting, you start order of operations all over again inside the parentheses. Okay, so once you're inside the parentheses, if your parentheses say something like this, oops, that's not going to work. Let's try that again. Let's do, Okay, what do you do first inside your parentheses? Well, you have to do your division first. Okay, and so 5 divided by 1, oops, I'm messing up all over the place. 5 divided by 1 is 5, and so you're going to end up with 10 minus 5 is 5. Okay, so make sure that when you're inside parentheses, you're also doing order of operations. All right, so let's take a look at our first problem. So when you have a problem like this, you need to make a decision, and your decision is a very simple one. Do I want to change everything to decimals, or do I want to change everything to fractions? Now, here's the thing. It's usually easier to change it all to decimals, because decimals are usually easier to work with. They're usually easier to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. However, there are some cases where you cannot change a fraction into a decimal easily, and I will show you when that situation happens. Okay? In this situation, 1/2 can easily change into a decimal. Okay? And so my choice in this problem is to change everything into a decimal, and so that's actually the first thing I'm going to do. So I'm going to rewrite this with all decimals. So 1.4 plus 1/2 as a decimal is 0.5 times 2.2. Okay, so I've rewritten it. Now, following my order of operations, I'm going to write PEMDAS at the top. Okay, all right. I do not have any parentheses. I do not have any exponents. I do have multiplication division, so I need to go ahead and solve that first. So 2.2 times 0.5. 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 2 is 10 plus 1 is 11. Done with that, done with that. Put my 0 as a placeholder. 0 times 2 is 0. 0 times 2 is 0. Add it all up. 0 plus 0 is 0. 1 plus 0 is 1. 1 plus 0 is 1. I have two numbers after the decimal, so my decimal is going to go right there, 1.10 or 1.1. So I'm going to rewrite the problem now. 1.4 plus 1.10. Okay, now I'm done with multiplication. I don't have any division, and all I have left is addition. Okay, so I'm going to go over here and do 1.4 plus 1.10, add a 0 as a placeholder. 0 plus 0 is 0, 4 plus 1 is 5, 1 plus 1 is 2. My final answer is 2.50, or you can drop the 0 and just do 2.5. Either is acceptable. Okay, let's look at our next problem. All right, here's another situation where a fraction can easily change into a decimal, and so that is the recommended decision that I would encourage you to make. All right, so I'm going to rewrite this, changing everything into a decimal. So here I'm going to have 5 times 3.5 divided by, now 1/4 as a fraction is 0.25. I'm going to write PEMDAS at the top. Okay, and I'm going to go through real quick. I don't have any parentheses. I don't have any exponents. I do have multiplication and division, and multiplication comes first. So I'm going to go ahead and solve that. 3.5 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 3 is 15, plus 2 is 17. I have one number after the decimal, so I have 17.5 divided by 0.25. Now all I have left is division. So I have a decimal divided by a decimal. I know that my first number goes inside the division bracket, and this number goes outside, but I know that I cannot have a decimal on the outside. So I need to move it to make it a whole number. I moved it twice, so I need to move it twice outside, and I'm going to add a 0 here, and I'm going to rewrite it now so it's clear. 25 on the outside, 1750 decimal on the inside, and bring it to the roof. And I'm going to go ahead and solve. 25 goes into 1 0 times. 0 times 25 is 0. Subtract. 1 minus 0 is 1. Bring down the 7. 25 goes into 17 0 times. 0 times 25 is 0. Subtract. 17 minus 0 is 17. Bring down the 5. 25 goes into 175 7 times. Evenly. Subtract. 0, but I have another 0 to bring down. That's very important. So 25 goes into 0 0 times. 0 0. So I can get rid of these zeros in the front, and my answer is 70. All right, next problem here. So this is another situation where it's going to work out really well for me to change my fraction into a decimal. Okay? All right, so let's go ahead and rewrite this with decimals. So 5 plus 3.9 minus, okay, now I know this 2 is going to go in front of the decimal, and 1/5, okay, is going to be, so 1/5 is, I can make that out of 10, 2/10, so 2.2 plus 4.6. All right, I'm going to write my PEMDAS at the top. Okay, so I do have parentheses I need to take care of first, so let me go ahead and do those. I have 2.2 plus 4.6, so 2 plus 6 is 8. My decimal lined up. 2 plus 4 is 6. Let me rewrite the problem. Okay, so I've taken care of my parentheses. I don't have any exponents. I don't have any multiplication or division. So now I need to do addition and subtraction in order from left to right. So I need to start over here. So I'm going to start with the 5 plus 3.9. And I need to make sure that I add it up correctly, or that I line it up correctly. So 0 plus 9 is 9. Bring down my decimal. 5 plus 3 is 8. So I have 8.9 minus 6.8. Okay, now all I have left is subtraction. So I'll go ahead and take care of my subtraction. 8.9 minus 6.8. 9 minus 8 is 1. 8 minus 6 is 2. So my final answer is 2.1. Now, let's say that you did not want to change all of this to decimals and you wanted to change it all to fractions. That is completely fine. You could have given me your answer in fraction form as well. That's perfectly acceptable. Alright, so here's another problem. This one also can easily change into decimals because 1/2 can easily change into 0.5. So I'm going to go ahead and write my PEMDAS at the top. Okay, and then let's go ahead and change into decimals. 2 times 2.1 minus 2.8 times 1 and 1/2 as a decimal is 1.5. Alright, so I do have parentheses and I need to go ahead and take care of those first. So 2.8 times 1.5. 5 times 8 is 40. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 4 is 14. So I took care of the 5. 1 times 8, oops, sorry, put my placeholder. 1 times 8 is 8, and 1 times 2 is 2. Add them up. 0 plus 0 is 0. This is 12, and this is 4. I have 2 numbers after the decimal, so the decimal is going to go right there. So let me go ahead and rewrite the problem here. 2 times 2.1 minus 4.20. You can drop the 0 at the end if you wish. Okay, so I took care of my parentheses. I don't have any exponents. I do have multiplication division. I just have multiplication. So let me go ahead and take care of that now. 2.1 times 2. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. I have one number after the decimal, so it's going to go right here. So 4.2 minus 4.20. That looks interesting. So I took care of my multiplication division. I just have subtraction left. So I have 4.2 minus 4.20, add my 0 as a placeholder. And it looks like I'm going to end up with 0. 0 minus 0 is 0. 2 minus 2 is 2. Or 2 minus 2 is 0. Bring down my decimal. 4 minus 4 is 0. So my answer is 0. Alright. Now, we can also change these into decimals, but you can also leave these as fractions, okay? And I'm going to solve this problem both ways so that you can see both ways to do it. In fact, let me see if I can make a line down the middle. Alright, so I do, because I do want to show you how to solve it both ways. Alright, so over here, I'm going to do PEMDAS. And over here, I'm going to solve it as decimals. And then over here, I'm going to solve it as fractions. And I'm going to write PEMDAS over here. Alright, so I'm going to rewrite it over here as decimals. So I have 1 times. Now 5 over 2, what is that as a mixed number? Okay, that's 2 and 1/2, which is 2.5, okay, divided by, what's 10 over 2 as a fraction? 5. Just like that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and solve here. So no parentheses, no exponents. I have multiplication division, so I'm going to start right here. 1 times 2.5, well, anything times 1 is itself. So 2.5 divided by 5, and all I have left is the division. Okay, so I have 2.5 on the inside. I have 5 on the outside. Bring my decimal to the roof. 5 goes into 2 0 times. 0 times 5 is 0. Subtract. 2, bring down the 5. 5 goes into 25 5 times evenly. So your answer here is 0.5. But I also want to show you how you can solve it with fractions, okay, and get the same exact answer. So I'm going to rewrite the problem over here. I'm going to try and keep the same colors. 1 times 5 over 2 divided by 10 over 2. So no parentheses, no exponents. I have multiplication, which I'm going to do first. Anything times 1 is itself. So 5 over 2, divided by 10 over 2. So all I have left is division, and I'm going to do my tic-tac-toe. Keep, change, flip. Keep, change, flip. Keep 5 over 2. Change division to multiplication and flip this to 2 over 10. 5 times 2 is 10. 2 times 10 is 20. So I have 10 over 20. And when I simplify that, I divide by 2. And that's going to give me, oops, I'm sorry, I don't divide by 2. Let's try that again, Miss Oates. I divide by 10. And that's going to give me 1/2. And 1/2 is the same exact thing as 0.5, just in decimal form and fraction form. Alright, let's go ahead and try this one. So this one, you would probably want to change into a decimal, because this fraction would easily change into a decimal. So I'm going to go ahead and write PEMDAS at the top. And then I'm going to go ahead and rewrite. So when I have improper fractions like this, what I like to do is first write it as a mixed number, which is 1 1/2, because that helps me figure out easier what it would be as a decimal. So 1 1/2 is just going to be 1.5 times, and then I'm just going to rewrite the problem. Alright, so let's take a look. So we do have parentheses that we need to solve first. So let me go ahead and take care of those. 7 minus 5.99, and I need to add some placeholders. And I have a lot of borrowing that I need to do. So that 7 is going to become a 6, this is going to become a 9, and this becomes a 10. 10 minus 9 is 1, 9 minus 9 is 0. Bring down my decimals, 6 minus 5 is 1. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite the problem. 1.5 times 1.01. Alright, so I got rid of my parentheses, there's no exponents, and all I have left really is this multiplication here. Okay? Let me switch colors. Move up a little bit. Alright, so I'm going to put the bigger, or the number with the more digit, or the most digits on top. 1.01 times 1.5. 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 1 is 5. Put my 0. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 0 is 0. 1 times 1 is 1. Add them up. 5 plus 0 is 5. 0 plus 1 is 1. 5 plus 0 is 5. 1 plus nothing is 1. I have 3 numbers after the decimals, so 1, 2, 3. So my answer is 1.515. Now just imagine, you can figure this out using fractions, but that's going to give you a very complicated fraction if you were to change this 0.99 into a fraction. Okay? Alright, so here's another example. I would recommend changing these guys into decimals as well. So what I like to do is make these into mixed numbers first. That's 1 1/2. Okay, and this is going to be 4 1/2. And then that makes it a lot easier to change into a decimal. And remember, half is just 0.5. So let's go ahead and rewrite this as decimals. So 10 plus 4 minus 1.5 minus 4.5. Okay? So, no parentheses, no exponents, no multiplication, no division. All we have is addition and subtraction, so we go in order from left to right. So 10 plus 4, that's easy enough. 14. Rewrite the problem. Okay, now we have 14 minus 1.5, so I'm going to do it right here. Make sure you line it up properly. You're going to have a lot of placeholders here. Okay, so you're going to have to borrow. 10 minus 5 is 5. 3 minus 1 is 2. 1 minus 0 is 1. So here we have 12.5 minus 4.5. Alright, and then we have one more subtraction. 12.5 minus 4.5. Make sure you add your 0 as a placeholder here. 5 minus 5 is 0. Can't do 2 minus 4, so we need to borrow. 12 minus 4 is 8. So you can answer as 8.0, or you can just write 8 is also acceptable. All right, so let's take a look at this problem here. I'm going to write PEMDAS at the top. This one is also not too bad to change into a decimal. So remember, anything with a bottom like a fifth, you can easily change into a tenth, which you can change then into a decimal. So 5 goes into 10 2 times, so then 2 times 2 is 4. How do you say that? 4 tenths. So it's going to be a 0.4, and there's a 1 in front of it, so 1.4. Okay, so let's go ahead and rewrite it. 4 minus 2.9 plus 2.8 divided by 1.4. Alright, we do have parentheses we need to take care of, so let's do that first. We have 2.8 divided by 1.4. Alright, so we have 1.4 on the outside, 2.8 on the inside. I need to move this once, so I move this once. Let me rewrite the problem now. And all it's going to say, bring my decimal to the top, how many times is 14 going to 2? 0. Bring down the 8. And how many times does 14 go into 28? 2 times evenly. So that worked out very nicely. Let me rewrite the problem. Plus 2. Alright, so let me go back up to my PEMDAS. So we took care of parentheses, no exponents, no multiplication, no division. Now we have addition, subtraction, but it's in order from left to right. So let's go ahead and do that. So we have 4 minus 2.9. So we need to add a placeholder here. Can't do 0 minus 9, so we need to borrow. 10 minus 9 is 1. 3 minus 2 is 1. So we have 1.1 plus 2. So I'll go ahead and add that over here. Add a placeholder. 1 plus 0 is 1. 1 plus 2 is 3. So our final answer is 3.1. Alright, those were a lot of practice problems, but they are very important. That is the end of the lesson, but we have much, much more to practice in class.